Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Tristan Merrick here, the digital storyteller, and I'm super excited to be with you once again for another episode of Creative to Creative. This is an opportunity where I get to talk to some of my favorite creative artists from around the world, from visual artists to painters to directors to storyboard artists to writers and everybody in between. And on my show today, I have the amazing artist, super chill personality, and just really vibrant spirit, Alexis Eke. So welcome her onto the show. What's up, Alexis? How you doing?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Good. I'm so glad to have you on the show because frankly, you're one of my favorite visual artists out there today. I'm super like crushing on all your art. Your art is dope. It's like I don't know. For me, as an artist to another artist, I just love and appreciate your work just because it's just really visually appealing. But then it has so many layers to it. So I mean, first let's start out with this. How did you become an artist? Like, why did you become an artist? What got you to this point? I mean, I know there's so many things within that, so those three questions, but like, why art?
I mean, like it was always there. Like I remember in elementary school, like that was when I first took an interest in art, and also with my mom also being an artist herself. It's like it was just around me like all the time, you know. And then and especially like around elementary school when I started to take an interest in art, my mom basically became my like personal like drawing teacher, and like she like taught me everything about like all the techniques and everything like that. And then as I got older, like around high school, I there was a program that was at my school that taught kids, more traditional art, but also, computer arts as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that really exposed me to the fact that, people can actually have a career in this field, like it was actually possible. And, then being in that program, that inspired me to actually, go out, to actually go to university for art. And then, being inspired in university and hearing about, the people that graduated and like how they're all over the world, and they're working, with all these cool companies. Like that inspired me as well to actually, want to develop my own style.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and also, do those things that, the people that graduated were already doing. And that's kind of like how I started to, I guess, take myself more seriously as an artist. And I started posting my work, here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and eventually, things like picked up. People started like liking it and sharing it and stuff like that. And then it turned into what it is right now.
Well,
But just like
I think that's what's so interesting about your story is that like, it there's so many layers to it because again, like I relate to it from the standpoint of like I never thought I was going to be behind a camera. But my father, I mean, that probably would have made sense because my father is a photographer, has been a photographer for over 40 years, right? So
wow.
hearing your story, I'm like, that's dope. Like but I never see the thing is I always wanted to be in front of the camera. Truth be told, because I was like more of an actor, and I still have a passion and a love for acting. But the idea that your mom is like your personal drawing coach. Now, I mean, as much as that sounds so like fantastic and like out of a storybook, let's keep it real. Like, how difficult was it to work with somebody that's related to you so closely, like that in some ways obviously you look up to, but then you also can be frustrated with, you're still her daughter. Like, what was that like learning from your mom?
Um, like, I think the fact that like me and my mom are basically like best friends, like I
Mm,
think that made the whole experience like not so horrible because we like get along really well.
mm-hmm,
Um, but I think with her personality, because she's like she has like high expectations, but it's not, to the point like where it's like, like like overboard or anything. But
Mm-hmm.
I think her, like having these like high expectations of me, like, and constant, like, and being consistent with like showing me techniques and everything like that. I felt like her pushing me in that way helped me a lot to develop like my own like to be more disciplined, like in my own creative um journey,
Mm-hmm.
because her pushing me, and like on a weekly basis, like um showing me how to draw and like shade and using like different colors and stuff, that like got me in the habit like of constantly creating all the time, because she was like pushing me in that way,
Mm-hmm.
which I think was really good. um and like I think more of the like when I was like in middle school and in elementary school, there wasn't really like a lot of clashing, because I didn't really know anything like that much about art.
She was like,
Like,
girl, you better just do what I say.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like I think when I like got into like university, I would say, I think like that was when like we would actually go like back and forth about like, how does this look, and like, this like font or something
Hmm.
looks like better than the other one, or something like that. But I think that kind of happened like as I got older,
Hmm.
like the going back and forth, and like a small like bit of clashing,
Yeah,
but
and
overall like, it was a good experience.
well, I can imagine because by the time you get to like university and like you're doing studies of like Michelangelo or Raphael, or you're going through the different eras, and then you're really trying to refine your own voice. It's like you're seeing now. You start seeing, well, mom, I wouldn't have done that way. You know what I mean? I want to do it
Yeah.
this way because I think that this is maybe the new score. This I want to infuse some of what I'm learning with some of the old techniques, with some of what you taught me, and then create something different. And that actually leads me to my next question, or kind of, as artists, a lot of times we struggle with trying to find our own style and our own voice. Like, how did you get to this sort of happy medium of like modern classical portraitures? Because like I feel like when I look at your work, I feel like I'm looking at literally like classical work, done in a modern with a modern spin to it. You know what I mean? And in a lot of ways, I find like I'm looking at I forgot what the artist's name is, but like the art, I think it's like not impressionist style. I'm gonna lose my mind trying to think about it, but just the way that the shading and the tones and the lines and the symmetry and the attention to detail, but with specific things. So like, for instance, like in a lot of your portraits, the eyes are so symbolic, and they're so,
Mhm.
you do specific things with the eyes that make,
Yeah.
at least as a viewer, you want to look into the person's eyes, like almost into the soul of the painting. Like, how did you
Mhm.
develop all of those little nuances? Why were those things important to you?
Yeah. Um, well, actually, like one thing that, like again, like my mom taught me, like when I was like in middle school, was that like when it comes to portraits, like the most important thing are the eyes. And like
Mm,
she puts such a big like importance on like knowing how to properly draw eyes, and like to actually draw them with like passion behind it.
mm,
And I think, her like again pushing me in that way, like, and helping me to develop that like technique, translated really well in the personal work I do. That like it definitely was a long process. Like it was not overnight. Like for the longest time, I didn't really think I even had like a creative voice to begin with.
Mhm.
But I think when I started to um, like post my pieces and and kind of put myself out there a bit more. Like I felt like as I started to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, I felt like that's that was like the moment that I actually started to like grow in my creative voice a bit more.
So talk about that a little bit more. So comfortable with being uncomfortable. What do you
Yeah.
mean by that? Because again, a lot of people may think, well, comfortable being uncomfortable. That could mean a lot of different things, to a lot of different people. But I think that that's
Mhm.
really important. And I really want to home in on that. Can you explain a little bit more, or maybe give some examples of that?
Um, like an example, like in my case, was to actually like first like put myself out there. Like that was something that made me uncomfortable, like posting like personal work and stuff like that, and like kind of being vulnerable in that way to people. That made me uncomfortable, but the more I, did that thing that made me uncomfortable. And when I started feeling, comfortable and like in that, like, like in that space, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
that was when I felt like my creative voice kind of starting to come out a bit more because I wasn't like afraid to actually be like vulnerable with my pieces anymore. um, because I felt like me being afraid to be vulnerable like kind of hindered like my creative voice a lot in the beginning. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make
Mm-hmm. No, that makes total sense, because I think a lot of times what happens with us as artists, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, is that because we aren't we try and hide our transparency, or try and hide our flaws, or try and hide our humanity. It restricts actually the authenticity that art needs for it to
yeah.
connect and land with people, right? You know what I mean? the
Mhm.
the more, what I find even with my stories that I craft and create, the more authentic I make them, the more um real they are to me, and to my life experience, the more it resonates with the audience that I share it with, right? And I think that
Yeah.
it's hard, because it's like, whether it's, I'm just throwing out ideas, but whether it's like artists that have gone through sexual abuse, or have gone through bullying, or have gone through,
Mhm.
learning disabilities or physical disabilities or whatever else, you don't necessarily want to show all of that truth. You know what I mean? Especially to a big digital world that is sometimes very vile, right, and reckless with that information. So it's like, how do you balance that out? But I love the fact that you, at the end of the day, a part of the creative process is just putting yourself out there, believing in your work enough, and trusting
Yeah.
in your vision and your voice enough to say, no, I have to share this. This is a part of
Mhm.
the process. Because I think many artists stop at creating the art and hide it. It's like art is
Yeah.
meant to be shared.
Yeah, for
What do you
sure.
think about that? Like art being meant to be shared and stuff.
Yeah, like that's like I think it's so important because like I feel like the the meanings behind like a lot of pieces of artwork, like the message can get across to a lot more people through art rather than like a sheet of paper and pen, like you know what I mean. Like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's just there's like it has a wider reach um when it comes to like communicating something personal to the artist or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like that's like one of the most important things about having about sharing your art is that actually goes a lot further than you think it does, and that could actually help like another person
Mm-hmm.
who happens to come across your work.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about your work, because One of the things that absolutely blows my mind is the fact that you're very unabashed about being a Christian, and infusing Christian themes, scriptures, ideas, and ideologies into your work. And to see, like, and the reason why I'm blown away by it is not just because you've done that, because many artists have done that before, but the fact that, like,
Yeah.
your work is in mainstream places. Like, I think you had a exhibit or a layout for, like, Canada Goose or something, where you had, like, you've worked with
Yeah.
other, like, big brands, like, and a lot of times there's this idea where it's like, there's this idea of secularism within not only just society, but specifically within the arts, where it's like,
Yeah.
art and religion can't coalesce together, can't coexist together. How are you
Yeah.
breaking that mold, and why is that important to you?
Um, the big question. Um,
I know it's a great question, because I ask myself
I
this
can think
too.
about it. Um, like, I think, like kind of like what you said already, like about how there's this thing like where religion and art can't really go together. Uh, like, and like, I guess, like a part of why that, like, I feel like people have kind of like just gone with that for so long is because we haven't actually seen a lot of modern art that kind of combines those two things. Well, at least personally for myself, I haven't really come across a lot of that in a while, to be honest.
Hmm.
um like, and I feel like, I guess, me attempting to combine those two themes in one, um like, I feel like that can start, like encouraging, um like other artists who are also Christian, that they can actually use their God-given talent to actually, like, to create art that actually that also glorifies God as well. Like, I feel like there's kind of this assumption that, if you make like if you're making Christian art, then you can't be successful in the industries or something like that. And like I also kind of want to, like, show that that's not the case at all. That um, that just because, like, you're glorifying God in your artwork, it doesn't mean that he still can put you in places, for you to also be successful in the in the industry that
Hmm.
you're in as well. It's not always like you know one or the other. It can still actually be like both ways, that you can be successful, like, in the industry that you're
Hmm.
in, but also make art that combines, like, glorifying God as well.
Yeah, and there's so much there, Alexis, because I feel like, in a lot of ways, growing up in the church myself, there was this sort of stigma from outside of the church, and even in the church as well, where it's like, you couldn't be a good artist and a Christian. You know what I mean? Like, you could be a Christian artist, but you couldn't be, like, really good at art. Like, you couldn't be
Yeah,
well respected and well received, and critically acclaimed, and also be a person of faith. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Or you couldn't be, like, a real devoted person of faith and be an
mhm,
artist, because the two were,
yeah,
like, antithetical to each other. But I myself feel like, first of all, we come from a creative being and source, right? God
yeah,
is a creator, right? He's the ultimate
mhm,
creator. So all of our creative sort of juices come from him. But not only just that, I think that there is something to be said about, the ultimate expression of being able to sort of reflect the belief and the faith in God and a higher being, for me it's God, it's Jesus,
Mhm.
is by reflecting the very things that are put inside of our hearts. You know what I mean? The way we see the
Mhm.
world, the way our
Yeah.
experiences. So it's like that to me is the ultimate form of worship, the ultimate form of honoring
Mhm.
our source and the creator, is to say like we can create as well, and this is what we're creating, and this is what we're saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that even just like when I shoot a film, I may not have scripture in it, but I believe that you can create, films that are visual
Yeah.
what am I saying now? Parables, you know what I mean? Visual parables, right? Where it's like you can see a truth in the film. You can hear a truth in the film. You can, or in
Mhm.
the song, right? Or in the
Yeah.
piece that you're seeing, and that can speak truth to you, and that truth is founded and rooted in the word of God, right? So I
Yeah.
I, I totally get what you're saying, and I think that we're living in a different era, I mean, a different sort of era of thinking that, okay, well, if I want to live this life of truth and walking with God, I don't have to
Mhm.
sacrifice my passion, which is art or science or
Yeah.
whatever it is, and not be good at that. Actually, I can be good at both.
Yeah.
So that's really, really interesting you say that. What are your thoughts about you know when it comes to artists who may say, they're artists that happen to be Christian versus Christian artists, and sort of, is that more of just a word play, or do you think that there is a distinction between being an artist that happens to be Christian versus a Christian artist?
I think there is a distinction, I would say. Like I think between those two artists, I think it would be, their like I think what would make them um like not the same per se. I think it would be the posture of their heart, like in terms of why they're actually making the work they're making. Um like I feel um like like an artist who happens to be Christian,
Hmm.
like I'm not assuming or anything, but like maybe like their intent behind what they're making, like it's not totally about spreading the gospel or talking about the word of God, like um all the time, I guess.
Hmm.
But then like with a Christian artist, I feel like I guess like that there may be more intention behind like what they're actually putting out and producing. And I guess like the Bible tells us to be a living sacrifice, and like a part of like I guess being a Christian artist, and actually like I guess being more intentional with like the talent and like and the abilities that God has given you, is like
Hmm.
to actually put those, like to actually like sacrifice like those like abilities that you have for the glory of God,
Hmm.
um rather than you know the art, rather than an artist who like happens to be Christian, um like I guess maybe that's not always the driving force behind the
Hmm.
work, or
Hmm.
that's just like not really like what they're thinking about, I guess. I'm not 100% sure
Yeah. No,
exactly,
no,
but it's
yeah.
something.
Yeah, no. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I think intentionality is important. I think that when I think about when people say sort of like I'm an artist that happens to be Christian or whatever else, I kind of look at it like, I don't happen to be married, right? Like I am
Mhm.
married, right? I am intentionally married, right? And
Mhm.
in a marriage. And that's kind of the same thing with being a Christian. It's like you don't kind of just happen to be that, and then, you know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like everything kind of comes out of that vantage point, right? And all the fruit is the byproduct of this sort of foundation, right, of your life. So I think that goes back to what you were saying. It's intentionality, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, we can't really gauge people's hearts or anything like that. I think it's just a good conversation to always have, to remind ourselves why we're doing what we're doing, and then
Yeah.
really bring it back to the truth of the matter, right? But this leads me to my next question. What are some of the, like, can you explain to me some of the symbols in your the symbolic nature of your
Mhm.
artistry? Because for those of you that that are listening to the podcast and have never seen Alexis's artwork, please just check it out. Just look it up. Just Google just Google it, because it's dope. Like, it's seriously dope. All right, like, really, it really is, right? And I was blown away. I remember we were doing a couple months ago. We were doing the Black History
Yeah.
shoot with Top Shop
Mhm.
Canada, and O'Shane Howard, my boy O'Shane Howard, is like, "Yo, listen, they got some fire artists like that are gonna be a part of this. Like, there's this one
Mhm.
artist named Alexis. Like, honestly, like I'm in love with her work. Like I love her work." And he's super high standards, like very high
Oh,
editorial, you know, very like thumbs his nose up to everything, right? And when he said that, and he always sends me, like, when he's serious, he sends me stuff in like our Instagram DM
oh
conversation.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, this is an artist that lives in Toronto, Canada. And he's like, "Yo, I'm telling you, she's the truth." I was like, "All right, cool." And he's like, "What I respect the most is like she
Mhm.
adds her faith in there, like all there's little scriptures and all this stuff." I said, "Okay, I gotta figure this thing out, because I have no idea." It's like a Rubik's cube. So if you can
Yeah.
explain to us a little bit, like some of the sort of nuances that you put in
Mhm.
every one of your pieces, and why those are important to you.
Yeah. But I guess like the main one is the white lines on the eyes
Mm-hmm.
to the mouth. Um, that like how that started. It was kind of like a happy accident type of thing. But like I was just experimenting, and I decided to like put a line across the face, and I'm like, okay, it looks kind of cool. Like I'll keep it there, and like later on, and like when I gave my life to Christ and everything, that was when I actually like that was when I actually found like the meaning behind it. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's like when it actually started to make sense. Um, so basically, the white lines that go from the eyes to the mouth, it represents like what we see influencing how we express ourselves through words and actions.
Mm.
So like it's a reminder for myself personally that what I look to, or that what I look to has an effect on, um, like on how I am. And it's a reminder for myself that, the more I look to Christ, then I'm going to reflect him in my life, more often. Um, and um, that's like the meaning behind that basically.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which is
then,
dope, which is super dope, because, like, again, you know, there's always these ideas of, like, you know, there's a saying that says the eyes are the gateway to the soul, right? And
yeah.
it's like, you know, and it's also like talking about how I remember there's a scripture that where Christ goes, you know, if your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out, right?
Mhm.
Like, take it out, like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's pretty violent, but you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But the ultimate point is, like, understanding that, like, what we consume, you are what you consume. And I love that.
Yeah.
And I love, like, it's just, that's dope. Anyways, continue. I'm interested.
Um, and then with those like small people, um, that
Mhm.
are like that are on top of the person, in the portraits and stuff, that that basically like represents like the desires of the flesh, I guess you would say,
Mm-hmm.
like how it's it's like I always imagine it like it's this small and like it's this small thing that just keeps that's just like it's still around us and on us,
Mm-hmm.
and it but like 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 it's also annoying, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like this is fighting against, my spirit and like what, the Holy Spirit wants to actually, work in me, but the flesh is fighting that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like those like small people on the portraits, it basically like represents like, those temporary like desires that we have, and like how it's always, but like it's always there, but it's like in the grand scheme of like eternity, it's like so small, and it's like so insignificant in comparison to like, the things that are eternal. That
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. I I was thinking when I saw some of those people, I was like, is that like good devil, bad devil, or a good like angel? That you know, what I mean, I was like, maybe it's that. I don't know. Maybe it's just tiny people. Who knows? It's
Mhm.
art. It's subjective, right? But
Yeah.
now you say that, it's kind of cool because it kind of reminds me of in those movies. Sometimes you have like people crawling on people like in those like scary movies, and it's like you're trying to get these sort of gnats and these sort of ticks and these sort of pestilence off of you, you know what I mean? and
Yeah.
and, and now that you're describing it, it makes a lot of sense.
Hmm. And like,
Mm.
it kind of relates to like how some of my pieces like have like how actually has scripture like
Yeah.
on the person, and it's like, the only way that we can like fight off those like, small like temporary desires and like just the desires of the flesh overall is by the word of God, and like
Hmm.
that's why like that would be that's why the word will actually be like on the person like wherever
Hmm.
it is. But yeah, I think those are like the common like stylistic stuff that I would
Hmm.
have in like all of my portraits.
All right, no, that's good. Let's talk about let's change gears a little bit, like, so as an artist and as a person that's like putting out the work and they're getting opportunities, everything else, has there
Mhm.
ever been pushback where people have been like, we want to use you, Alexis, you're amazing, but all this scripture stuff, can you like maybe tone it down a little bit and just give us
Yeah.
something from your creative expertise? Like, how do you navigate that? Like, and with that, how have you like been able to navigate and also get people to pay your worth, like what you feel you're worthy of, right? Because it's
Mhm.
one thing to be an artist and for people to love your work, but it's another
Mhm.
thing to get paid and to live off of that, right? And then also with that, it's like, well, sometimes it's like when people are paying, then they want to try and put stipulations on your art and what you
Mhm.
are. So how do you navigate that, some of those minds?
Mhm. Um, well, fortunately, that hasn't actually happened yet. Hasn't happened yet.
Okay,
Um,
okay. Big up yourself.
the only, the only thing that I've like kind of come across with pushback is like its actual project itself, like where like I would just have to like turn it down because it just doesn't align.
Hmm.
That's like the only type of like pushback I would say that I've like experienced so far. But um like I think what helped a lot with like figuring out like my worth and like getting paid like, what I should be getting paid, I, like I think a big part of that was being signed to an agency. That really helped me a lot. I didn't even know that was even a thing, to be honest with you. Like,
Yeah.
I was so surprised that like there was a like an agency for artists. I was like, what? Like this is so interesting. So that really helped me a lot because, you know, being with them, I think it's been like 3 years now.
Hmm.
Like they've really shown me like the business part of being an artist and like how, you know, how um like commissions and rates are actually like broken down and like you know the actual and like the proper amount that I should be getting paid based from like the projects that I've already like got done in the past and also to, just off of like, you know, my skills set and everything. But I feel like, you know, for people who don't like have agents and stuff like that, I feel um, you know, like having like if you happen to know people who are also in this same industry as you, and like it may be an uncomfortable conversation. I'm not like like hopefully it's not, but you know, like kind of getting you know multiple like points of view on like you know how they kind of come up with their rates and how they and like how they learn to like be confident in telling companies and people like you know this is like how much I charge and this is like you know how much my work is worth and like I'm not really gonna compromise in this area
Hmm.
type of thing. I feel like that helped me a lot as well. Like to actually have those conversations with like um, multiple artists that I know, like how they kind of came about it.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Would you say that like it's beneficial like for all artists to be signed and be repped if you're doing it
Mhm.
professionally?
Like I think, like I would say, probably. Like I think it depends on like what type of art that you actually want to do in like your career. But like I feel like if you like more of the commercial art and stuff like that, then I would say like 100% for sure you should. That would be really helpful. But if you're born to like you know having exhibits and shows and people just like purchasing your like original paintings and things like that, um, then you know it might not be like completely like necessary, but like it would still help you like
Hmm.
regardless. I think um like like depending on what type of like type of career and art you want to have, I think still to just have some type of like representation or agent, I think it helps a lot with being able to actually get paid a lot more.
Hmm.
And for, you know, like at least to start off for people to actually take you more seriously as an artist.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm still kind of deliberating because obviously I do
Mhm.
film and
Yeah.
photography, and it's one of those things where it's like you kind of weigh out the pros and the cons because obviously with when it comes to being signed, that sounds really great, but then also you're not necessarily getting 100% of the pie, right? You still got to
Mhm.
give your dues or your percentage, whether it's 15 or 20%, depending on what you negotiate, or 10%
Yeah.
to your agent, and then but then they're also looking for the work for you and the proper opportunities for you. So
Mhm.
it's a mixed bag. I do think that that it's a great way to be educated, and it's a great way if you can get in to get some of those commercial stuff because most companies that are doing, that have large budgets, they're not going to go to just independent um, creative
Yeah.
artists. They're generally going to go through an agency route to find the
Mhm.
right artist or the right team to be able to produce what they want. So I think that you're right in that aspect of like really leveraging the opportunity if you get it, to at least try it for a couple of years and see how it works
Yeah.
and see how it works
Yeah.
for you. You know what I mean? But it leads me to my next question, which is like, I don't know about you, but like, how do you always feel inspired to create a piece, or is it like more ebbs and flows? Because I find for myself, it's definitely like if I'm in a funk, I cannot create, and
Yeah.
I actually frustrate myself more. Like what do you think? Like I don't know.
Yeah. Like it's definitely that. Like I'm never always in the mood or like in the space to create all the time.
Hmm.
Like I would have like a like there'd be times where I wouldn't create a personal piece in like a few months, like type of thing.
Hmm.
It's just like if it's not happening, like it's just it's not happening. Like I'm not gonna force, myself to make a piece of artwork and then I don't really even like it that much like afterwards.
Hmm.
Um like I'm definitely like I take a more like casual approach to like making personal artwork. Like if I'm in that space like where I feel, like 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 there's a, concept I wanna, like experiment on and try out and stuff like that, then I'll, make a piece. But if there's like if I don't feel like there's nothing that I want to create, then I won't, force myself for this take of like being consistent on like social media and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Because I don't want to, like burn myself out that way or,
Yeah.
you know, kind of like let like social media like control like how I create and like and even how my pieces like visually look as well. I really just like want to like I guess just guard like my creative process like as much as
Hmm.
possible.
Yeah. No. No. I 100% agree. I feel what's hard as an artist is you know art is something that comes out of us based upon the feelings that we have, the life
Mhm.
experiences that we have, the way that we see the world, the perspectives that we gain from being in conversations and seeing other art, and inspiration comes from a lot of different places. But once you make that into your career, there is sort of that spontaneous passion project art that comes out of you that you need to that story that you need to tell through your art.
Mhm.
And then there's the sort of like um the meal, what my friend says, B Washington says, the meal reel, meaning this is the work that you're doing for the paycheck because you got to pay bills and you got to have a meal, right? You know what I mean? It's not like you're not like looking at it and be like, oh my god, I love it so much. Like it's like, okay, well I got to pay bills. You know what I mean?
For work.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
work. It's work, right? And I think sometimes that can be soul sucking uh, in comparison to the passion projects or the lack thereof. If you don't
Yeah.
have a passion outlet, like, and how do you balance that out? How do you do that? Because sometimes even for the work that you can be getting paid $60,000 for a project and still be
Yeah.
like, I'm not excited about it,
Yeah.
but I got to do it, right? What are some of what are some of your ways to kind of amp yourself up as an artist to stay professional and stay
Mhm.
business minded in that way? Because I mean, that check, although the check's fat, sometimes the weight of the check isn't necessarily the most inspiring thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I feel like I think um kind of like what's helped me with that in terms of like not feeling like almost like the work I'm making like is a burden almost,
Hmm.
is like I guess having and like this was like I know this was kind of like one of the questions that you had, but like kind of having a safe space
Hmm.
to just like kind of like I don't know how to describe it, but like just having a safe space to actually like just kind of reset
Mm-hmm.
so that like when you so that when I have like all these projects and things like that, or like if I'm having a hard time like making a passion project, which I haven't, like made like in a few months, it's like to to go back to that safe space,
Mm-hmm.
like kind of like I guess like sobers my mind in terms of like, um like it like I don't want to like I'm trying to like find the words to like explain it, but just like having that like space to actually like set your mind like in the right spot again,
Yeah, I like to
like
kind of reset
have
it
a
to.
clear like perspective on like,
Mhm.
what I'm actually like um working on like right now, and even the purpose behind like why this is all happening. It's like that kind of like sobers me again to be like,
Mhm.
okay, you know what, like I just have to do this work, and um slowly get back to making, passion projects, because there's a bigger reason behind, why these things are even happening like in my life right now.
Mhm. Mhm. No, I totally get what you're saying, and I think we all got to find a space, a place where we can go to reset, right? To recalibrate, and I think that's ultimately what you're trying to describe is the idea of, recalibration is normal.
Mhm.
There's only so many hours your computer can be on before it needs to be restarted. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and I know we all have the bad habit of like never turning off our iPads or iPhones, and we're like, why is it
Yeah.
sticking? Well, it hasn't slept in 84,000 hours, right? How about we like turn it
Yeah.
off for 2 hours? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I totally get it. I totally get that idea, and I think that many of us don't know how to turn it off because we're so used to, in the words of my boy O'Shane, like used to just like creating content to create content, right? But it's like, what does it mean to create meaningful, legacy driven content, or not even content,
Mhm.
but art? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff that like, when people stop and they look at it years later, they walk away with
Mhm.
something new. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I miss that. That's something that I miss about art.
Mhm.
When I was younger, I fell in love with the Renaissance period.
Yeah.
My favorite artist was Michelangelo.
Yeah.
Partially because I just like saying it like that, Michelangelo, right? But he was a sculptor, he was a painter, he was like all these things, and like,
Mhm.
but like there's detail. Like I can look at the 16th chapel, and I mean I've never been there before. I want to go and I want
Mhm.
to see it, but like I can just look at the paintings, I can see the detail, but I can also see the expression. I can also think about what was in the mind of the person, like of him,
Yeah.
the artist. You know what I mean? Like what was
Mhm.
that time like? Like it brings you, it elevates the way you look at your life and look at the human
Yeah.
condition and experience. And I think that you can't create work like that if you're constantly just chucking out anything. You have to
Mhm.
take time. You have to take intentionality to really reset that. So I
Yeah.
love I love what you're saying about that, which leads me to my next question, which is like, I have my favorite piece, right? But
Mhm.
like, what's like some of your dopest work that you feel that you've ever created? And be honest. Maybe it's something that we haven't even seen yet. I hope it's something we've seen, but what do you
Yeah.
think is your dopest work?
I think I'd say two pieces.
Okay.
The first one, I think it was a piece I did like it was the first piece I posted in 2020.
Okay.
And um, like I think that's one of my favorite pieces, because that was like the first piece I made that I actually like made for God. Like I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like I'm gonna like this was the first piece that I intentionally like wanted to make to like spread his word, to make a piece that actually was based like off of scripture.
Mm-hmm.
And like that, from doing that one piece, like that started, like me, like, making my portraits from that point on, like in a similar ways. So that's like definitely one of my favorites because I feel like it's almost like a milestone piece, you
Well,
know?
I'll show you one of my favorite pieces. I have two, and
Okay.
I want you to tell me about the other one. But I got to show everybody that's watching on
Okay.
YouTube. But this one, right over here, right here. There we go.
Oh, okay. I see it. Yeah.
This one is like my favorite. It looks all like super bright and whatever else. It's just because of my
Mhm.
settings. But then also there is ooh, I'm seeing a new one here. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. No, there's this one here, which is amazing. It's two ladies. I think
Oh,
this is one of my favorites as well. It's one
yeah.
lady sitting on the lap of the other lady. You know, and if I'm describing it, it's beautiful, ebony chocolate looking women with just natural flowing hair. One has a fro, one has like more, relaxed hair, but both of them look
Mhm.
like just being confident with each other. And like
Yeah.
just like I just the colors that you use, like I mean, even this one here, I mean, I'm looking at
Mhm.
this. I'm like, first of all, I would date somebody that looked like this. That she looks beautiful. She looks date worthy. You can't really see it because it's a little bit bright, but
Yeah.
like it's just the detail to it, the shading of the cheeks of
Mhm.
the. I mean, every one of these ladies have the best eyebrow shapist ever. Like
Yeah.
I can tell you like, listen, girl, if I
Girls have
wasn't
to look
doing this,
good. Like,
yeah, my eyelashes need to look good. My you know what I mean. I need to beat this face good, right? No, but it just looks amazing, right? And it has this flow to it, and it has this sort of like energy to it. Those are my some of my favorite pieces, right? But what are some of your favorite pieces? And are
um,
in terms of the second one, I should say.
yeah. Um, this tech one I haven't posted yet actually, but
Oh, okay.
my like second favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
Because I experimented more with like with like having like, I guess like surrealism
Mm-hmm.
more in this portrait than I've done in the past. So and like, and I really liked how it turned out too. So that's like another favorite piece
Mm-hmm.
of mine as well because um like it's based off of um like in Ecclesiastes when the Bible says that God has put eternity in our hearts, and like that really
Mm.
stuck with me like for a while, and like I was just thinking like how can I show eternity like in a visual way, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like it was like it definitely was a fun like experiment to actually like really think and like figure out like how can I show this like huge theme, in a
Yeah.
visual way. Yeah.
That's dope. I'm excited to see that. I cannot wait. You definitely have to show it and share it with our audience. I can't wait
Yeah.
to see it. Man, there's so many questions I just want to just rapid fire ask you, like, again,
Mhm.
I mean, as much as you're an artist and you're acclaimed and people know you and whatever else, you're also a young lady, right? Are you like kind of super focused on just your work, or is there any special people in your life, or is dating kind of like a sideline thing that you kind of have done? Like what's your thought on trying to like have work-life balance, like all of that sort of stuff?
Like hasn't really been too hard. I mean, but like aside from like working and stuff, I just like I'm usually like either hanging out with my friends or I'm going to like Bible study. Like it's either like one or those two things, and like I'm working, and that's basically
That's
it.
it. That's it.
Yeah,
Listen.
that's literally it.
That's it. Listen, what is what is it was a is it Song of Solomon or Proverbs where it talks about virtuous women, right? So hey, listen,
Mhm.
do your thing, right? She got her business together. So what are some of the things that you're working on? Yeah, moving forward. Are there any projects that you can share with us so you can let us know that you're working on and like how we can support you and stuff?
Um, there is a project coming up, but I can't really talk about it completely.
Okay,
Uh,
okay. So talk about it halfly then.
yeah, yeah. Um, like it's kind of similar to the project I did with Phil Locker, like having a mural type of thing.
Hmm.
So like I was really excited to do another mural because I really like enjoy projects like that because like it's so huge and like so many people can be impacted by the artwork,
Hmm.
because like
Hmm.
it's a public space and everything. Um, but yeah, like it was just like another mural piece I was working on. That'll be coming out like I think in a few weeks.
Okay,
Um,
okay, okay.
so, like, you'll be able to see it soon.
That actually gives like kind of sparks another question to me, Alexis.
Mhm.
Like how like what is your process? Because I know that you like I follow you on social and I know that a lot of your work is virtual or digital, I should say.
Yeah.
But do you always start with your um art from a digital perspective, or do you start with hand drawn and then you go to digital and then maybe go back to print, or like how
Yeah.
does that work for you?
Um, like I usually start like in my sketchbook.
Hmm.
Like when I was in school, like our teachers like they always like put an emphasis on, don't like stray away from, a sketchbook and a pencil because that still has a lot of like it's still important to actually know like how to actually like sketch and draw still, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So like I still start off on like pencil and paper, whether it's like a personal piece or or a commission.
Hmm.
And then I would just, like um once I like have like a couple sketches, like in a few like tie notes and stuff like that, actually like go on the computer or like on my iPad, like start working on it.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, shout out to Apple. I mean, they've been getting a lot of love from artists, man. Like it seems
Yeah.
like everybody's doing art
Yeah.
on iPads now. Nobody's saying I did it on my Android device and it was great.
Like
Or
it's so efficient. Like it's actually insane. Like it's really good.
it's really so what are your like what are your go-to tools for like creating? So like you say your iPad, is it iPad Pro? Is it just a normal iPad? Do you use like one of those pencils, those iPad pencils? What are some of the tools that you use?
Um, like like it's mainly the iPad. I can just have a regular iPad. I think it's like the smaller ones.
Okay.
Um, and like I have the Apple Pencil. Like and I still use Adobe programs for sure.
Hmm.
Like Photoshop and Design. I use those a lot, and like and also like Adobe Illustrator as well. I'll go back and forth between like those programs and then and then drawing on Procreate.
Hmm.
Those are like the main four
And
programs.
and why do you jump back and forth between the different programs? Is it because
Mhm.
you're integrating like real photography with a vector stuff with
Mhm.
and even like InDesign,
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about how that works. Because normally, like from my background, InDesign was really something that people used in the magazine industry. But how does that work for your work? Like infusing like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and then Procreate. Like how does that work for you?
Mhm. Well, like was totally on Procreate. Like that's where I actually like make the piece. But those like stylistic, like things I have in all of my work. That's that's like where Photoshop kind of comes in. and like I'll, um, put like those like small people in the piece, and then I would like fix the like contrast with the colors, or even, like some of the hues of the colors and stuff like that in Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
And then like it like and then when it comes to like, because I kind of started like making posts attached to my pieces that that explains the concept behind the work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like making those like um text pieces, like I would mainly use I mainly go into InDesign for that, because like that like I think that's like one of the best programs like for like making text posts, and just like if it's something that has to do with like having a body of text, it's like that's like the actual that's like the best application
Mm-hmm.
for that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just go back and forth.
Yeah, I would have thought, honestly, just looking at your work, I would have thought that you were using like um Illustrator and then maybe bits of Photoshop, but like
Mhm.
another more artistic program. So I'm really fascinated with how that works. So you hear that, boys and girls? It's not just spick spam bam and thank you, ma'am. It's like a process, right? It's like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
several tiered process in order to create a look and to create a
yeah.
signature look at that. Um, Man, I feel so full with this conversation. There's so many things that, so much more things I want to learn about you. But is there anything that you would want to share with those artists that are like, struggling with comparison, struggling with, you know, they don't feel like they know what they're doing or where they're going as an artist. They have a passion, but they don't really have a lot of direction. What are some of the things that you would
Mhm.
share with those individuals?
Um, I'd say I say a few things. One of them would be, you know, this time like that you're kind of figuring out, what you want to do and how you want your work to kind of look. Take this time to actually like really experiment with like, you know, with like different mediums, different programs, different subjects, um, like it's really through experimentation that your style kind of naturally starts to pop out, like, and also like having patience like in that process as well, because there was a time like in this summer I tried to like have a whole like style of art like in a matter of like 4 months, and I failed because it doesn't happen that quickly.
Mm.
So like I would say definitely have patience, but like in the process of experimentation, because you'll definitely see over time, like 100%, like your style is gonna pop out for sure. Um, and with the comparison thing, that's a hard thing. I think like even myself, I still like struggle with that.
Really?
But
Really?
yeah, yeah,
With all that you've accomplished, Alexis, like, and that you continue, like, honest to God, I would not be surprised, like, if next year when Adobe comes out with their creative whatever cloud something else, your piece is
yeah,
on there. It's like, this is celebrate Black artists. Here's Alexis from Toronto. You know what I mean? Like, so a
yeah,
person like you, even a person like you still compare yourself to other people. Like, man, but I can't shade a nail like she can. You actually do
yeah.
that kind of stuff? Yeah.
I mean, it's not like that like type of comparison. It's more of like it's just but like comparison in terms of like like am I is what I'm making, is it enough type of thing, and
Mm.
just like um seeing how like some people like they just post like so consistently like all the time. I'm just like, how are they posting like every week? Like I just don't understand. And like
Shout out to
um
those crazy people that spend all their time
no,
posting on
yeah,
Instagram.
honestly, like wow. um like and those like types of things, like I'll, kind of like compare myself a bit. But in the past, like I had a really, really hard time with comparison. Like when I first like started out like in 2018. But what I have to remind myself is that like comparison really like steals your contentment with your own artwork. And once that contentment and like kind of goes away, it's like that really hinders like your own growth, also as an artist as well. And like that's just something that I have to keep reminding myself a lot. And like for people watching this, that are starting out and everything, like it may be a habit to compare a lot, and like that's a normal thing, but to just remember that actually does steal your contentment with your own artwork. And like and to think about it in that way, like it's just like it's not even worth it to keep on comparing.
Well, listen, Alexis, you just brought some bars upon bars. Big yourself up. Big yourself up, because and no, honestly, the whole idea of comparison, steals your contentment. I mean, you hear it, but sometimes you need a different voice to say it. So I really appreciate that. That was dope. Where can we follow you? Where can we support you? How can we get a hold? How can we buy some of your work? Darn it. We need to buy and support your work. Yes.
You can follow me on Instagram at alexis.ek. And that's like how it is like also on Twitter, on YouTube. It's always Alexis Eke. Yeah. You can just find me there.
Okay, good. A true artist, and never saying you can buy my art here. It's just like, you can find me. If you like my art, then maybe you can buy it. If you like, if it looks good and you don't think I suck, then buy, please. It's like so modest. Buy her work, support her work. I'm in the process of trying to select some artwork too as well, so I'm excited about that. But on behalf of the whole Crave to Crave team, Alexis, we really appreciate you. We thank you for your time, your insight, and your transparency. This has been an amazing conversation of Creative to Creative. Y'all know what it is. It's Tristan Barracks here with another dope artist. Please continue to subscribe, like, and share on our YouTube channel, and share the podcast. Until the next time, stay creative, stay blessed, stay focused, y'all. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Creative to Creative podcast with Tristan Barracks. Make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. If you would like to be a guest, please email us at info@tristanbarracks.com. Peace.